Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit about mood disorders. Mood disorders and anxiety disorders are probably the two most common disorders that you're going to see. I want to be sure that I remind you that when we talk about mood disorders, that is a category of disorders. It is not a diagnosis. So you would never write mood disorders as a diagnosis. You have to be specific about which diagnosis within the category that you are focusing in on. So before we get started on looking at the actual disorders, let's just talk a little bit about just the nature of moods. We all experience a natural rhythm in our moods. Events of the day, stress, exciting things, sad things, all of these things have an impact on our mood. But when we talk about mood, we want to be sure that we're understanding what we're talking about and that we've got terminology down. We need to distinguish between mood and emotion. Our emotions definitely affect our mood, but when we say mood, we are talking about a prevailing state or condition of our feelings. It's not a passing thing. It's a prevailing state, something that has extended over a period of time. So I can experience a variety of emotions while remaining in the same mood. But when we talk about mood, we also need to distinguish between mood and affect. Affect is spelled A-F-F-E-C-T, just like affect. It's just pronounced affect. Mood is described by the individual who's experiencing it. So I can describe my mood to you. Affect is the observable expression of emotions. So I can't determine what your mood is, but I can judge that based upon your affect, based upon the things that I am observing in you that are an indication of your mood. So when we talk about somebody having a flat affect, that basically means that we're not seeing a range of emotions in them. We're not seeing much expression of emotions at all. When you talk about flat, it's just kind of what it sounds like, just flat. There's nothing there. We're not seeing a whole lot. People can experience different emotions, but describe the same mood while they're exhibiting different affects. If I were to observe several different people who said they were depressed, some may look sad, some may look angry, some may look irritable. But the bottom line to remember is that we all experience moods. And when people have trouble regulating their mood, or their highs and lows are higher or lower than what we see within a typical normal range, that's when we begin to consider that somebody might have a mood disorder. The two keystone things that we're looking at in a mood disorder are depression and mania. So those are the opposite ends. When you hear someone say bipolar, depression is one pole, mania is the other pole. Depression is a very low feeling that's associated with sadness, a loss of interest in things you normally enjoy, sleep disturbance. When we talk about sleep disturbance, that can mean sleeping more or less than normal. Eating disturbance, same thing, eating more or less than normal. Feelings of hopelessness and feelings of worthlessness. Those are just some of the things that we look at when somebody's experiencing a depression. Those are some of the common traits of that. But remember, I also said you can see somebody also who's angry and irritable. That sometimes can come in there as well. Mania is just the opposite end of that. It's the sense of euphoria, really excessive energy, sense of grandiosity, and possibly, if it goes to an extreme range, it can be a poor sense of reality. They really don't have a good perception of reality. Most people who experience a mood disorder are going to experience depression. However, we hear an awful lot of people diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's a very, very common disorder. I'm just going to tell you my own personal, I shouldn't say it's a common disorder. It's a commonly diagnosed disorder. My own personal opinion of that is that's a managed care diagnosis. that insurance companies are more likely to provide payment for bipolar when they won't sometimes just for depression. So I think that's one of the reasons that we're seeing an increase in that. And I don't necessarily think that everybody who has a diagnosis of bipolar disorder truly is bipolar. Some people experience both depression and mania. That's when we classify it as bipolar. And there are a few who only experience mania. They don't have depression. However, if they only experience mania, it still is classified as bipolar disorder. All mood disorders are diagnosed and classified as Axis 1 disorders. They're never anywhere else other than Axis 1. I want to talk to you a little bit about the differences, and this is all going to be in the module. You're going to read this, but I want to talk to you a little bit about this as well. When we talk about depression, or mania, either one, we're talking about feelings and emotions that are on a spectrum. So somebody can be depressed, but be at different levels of depression. So like if I was the most depressed I could possibly be, I might classify that as a 10. However, I could also be like at a 5 and still have some significant depression symptoms and traits that go along with that. The opposite end of major depression, on that 1 to 2 end of the range, which is just kind of a mild, is a condition that we refer to as dysthymia. Okay, dysthymia is kind of a chronic, low-grade depression. You don't really see people who have dysthymia being significantly impaired. Most of them are going to work every day. Most of them are functioning fairly well. They may even be functioning in a social realm. Sometimes you may see someone with dysthymia that's isolated themselves a little bit, but not enough that we would be concerned about serious levels of impairment. So you would never say somebody has dysthymia if they have really significant depression symptoms. Like I said, it's just kind of that chronic low-grade depression. You never really reach a normal mood, but you also never really go down into a really deep depression either. The other end of that, on the mania side of it, is a condition called hypomania. People can have hypomanic symptoms, and again, it's just kind of a mild mania. You're not really reaching that full-blown manic episode. That it's just mild manic symptoms. And then there's something that's called cyclothymic disorder, and that's when you put a hypomanic episode together with a dysthymic condition. So you've got people who are exhibiting bipolar symptoms, but not at a high enough level to truly say this is full-blown bipolar. You see some range in emotion and some back and forth of cycling of moods, but never to the depths or the seriousness or the severity of what we would say would be a bipolar disorder. So you're going to read a lot about this in your textbook and then in the module about all the different symptoms of the disorders. You're going to read some case studies. So let's take a look at mood disorders. I hope you enjoy the module.